Good evening, everyone. We'd like to bring the meeting of the work session of the Board of Education on Tuesday, April 9th at 6:12 p.m. That's close meeting to order. Everybody please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'd like to open a meeting with some new business the superintendent would like to speak about. And the first one is a community update for energy performance contract for the energy efficiency improvement project we've been talking about.
Yes, we've been speaking about that the past 3 or 4 meetings, and we will be getting into greater detail during our budget presentation, but I just wanted to inform the taxpayers and the voters and emphasize a few things. First, that it's at no expense to the taxpayer. Secondly, we really did not have to put it up for a vote, but we decided to do that because we get a 10% reduction in the cost of the overall budget. So that's an important piece. And secondly, we get to decide how we're going to finance it so we can select a better rate for more return for our money. So with that being said, I don't want the voters, when they see the ballot, to be confused with the lawyer language that will be on the ballot. So Mr. Van Wart later in the presentation will be talking a little bit about that. But basically what you're voting for, if you vote yes for a 10% discount and to allow us to finance and pick a finance tool to work the energy performance contract. So that's really the big thing. And, we felt like because we wanted the tax savings, we felt it was the responsible thing to do for the taxpayers. So that's just a quick update on the energy performance contract. And I will mention that on May 6th, from 6:30 to 7 p.m., we'll be at the Center Avenue having a special PTA. We'll be talking about specifically the energy performance contract, asking questions and updating the community on any budget questions they have. We're doing a grand tour May 8th. We'll be at the high school at 7 o'clock with the high school PTA. And then on May 13th, we'll be at Rain Avenue. A special meeting. The high school's a regular scheduled meeting. The Rain PTA meeting is an additional meeting on May 13th from 6:30 to 7. So Mr. Van Wart and myself will be doing the tour of the different buildings. For any of the taxpayers and community members who have any questions about the upcoming budget and the energy performance contract.
So each one of those presentations will be the same information.
Correct. Correct.
Thank you. 5, 6, 5, 8, 5, 15.
5, 6 will be center, 5, 8 the high school, and May 13th.
All 6 o'clock.
6:30 is on the 6th at Center Avenue. Rain is at 6:30. The high school is at 7. And we'll be putting information out to the community and we'll put some guests on the PTA members.
Thank you.
So I'd like to take this moment to acknowledge esteemed board member, Mr. Don Volkes. And just to give you a little background, the New York State School Boards Association has nominations for outstanding school board members, and we nominated Mr. Volkes for that award. We felt like his service to the community, not only as a teacher, athletic director, leader in so many ways. We felt like it was worth the nomination, and I'm very proud to say that Mr. Volkes did win the Outstanding Service Award. No speech yet. So this award, this award recognizes noteworthy dedication to the school, board service, extraordinary commitment to students, school district, and community. It is reserved for a school board member whose dedication to schools and community exemplifies and honors the commitment of school board members across Long Island. So they will be holding a dinner on May 30th at 6 p.m. at the Hamlet Golf and Country Club. So we're hoping we'll have attendees from the board and the administration to celebrate that day with Mr. Volpus. And I will also be reading a bio and embarrassing him at the next public board meeting to recognize his accomplishments. So I want to congratulate Mr. Volpus.
Is that coming around with us?
Yeah, go early. It does. Absolutely. But I want to make one more note. At our last superintendent's conference day, we recognized all staff members for their commitment to their 20-year service. And what we did was we had a total of 66 people. We recognized clericals, custodians, any staff member who had put in their service. So we recognized them and called them up on stage. We had a pretty good motivational speech about pride and loyalty. And what we added to that, we added those employees who, although retired, are still working or still giving service to the community. And Don Volper certainly has done that. So I'd also like to give you the 20-year service pin.
You know, one of the things we spoke about, if you remember, was about what to do with staff members who have really created tradition within the drop group. And 20 years seemed like the number that we were looking for. I saw the pictures and I saw the comments and how much it meant to them and to those around them and the memories that they had. And it really was so well done. I just want to thank you for carrying out that the mission that we thought about, seeing it to fruition, and really now hopefully reaping the rewards, because the younger teachers, as we all know, get to see that, and they see how these people stay who drop. Why do they say 20 years and more of service? And it was a great day, and certainly a perfect time of the year because it carries everybody through right to the end now. So it really was, and thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, any old business, any board members? Yeah. Okay. So we'll do it new and old business. Move on to item number 2, review the regular board education minutes of 3/26/24. I know I had the chance, I think review on those. I don't have any questions, anybody? And how about on the next board agenda, 4/16? They all good with that? Okay, so we're going to vote. Excellent. Moving on to our budget work session. Mr. Michael Van Wart will present now on presentation number 3 on the budget.
Okay. So before Mr. Van Wart gets started, this was a team effort, and I'd like to thank my team for putting in the time and resources to create an incredibly responsible budget. You'll be hearing from Mr. Van Wart, who'll be doing an overview as usual. We have added, Mr. Healy was speaking about our special ed services, and Mr. Murray will be speaking about curriculum and instruction. But what I wanted to mention and talk to the taxpayers about first is that not only is this a responsible budget, but we worked incredibly hard at reallocating resources. So we evaluated each program we had, we cut the programs that were not working, and added the programs that we wanted, and now have been successful. We did a little bit about PBL, I read a number of different new academic programs that were really, I feel like we're ahead of the curve at this moment. But with that being said, inflation costs up, transportation costs up, any inflation up. So what that does is that creates a pinch in our budget. But we were able to, for the last 3 years, to come under the cap. And this year, our average increase, we're offering a 1.9 in budget increase. Most districts in Nassau County are either at their limit or above 2. I believe the last I checked, there were 5 districts who were below 2, so we are in that category. So we've done a very responsible job. And if you want some data and information on that, the Suffolk County average levy increase is 2.86. Nassau County, 2.484, and Long Island is 2.66. We are putting forth 1.98 because of the hard work of my team. So I'm going to let Mr. Van Wart start us off and then call up different members of my team to present the budget.
Thank you. So I'll just start the presentation today with kind of a recap on what's happening up in Albany. April 1st was the budget deadline for the state. We've blown past that. They've done temporary short-term budget extensions 3 times now. The new deadline is April 11th for a budget to be passed and delivered to the state. Reading the tea leaves, it seems like that's going to be pushed back also potentially one more time. The original budget deadline, like I mentioned, was April 1st, so it does kind of put us in a little bit of a flux. We don't have finalized state aid numbers, so we're going to have to make a best guess projection on what we think what state aid we're going to be receiving to support our budget for 24-25, absent something being passed between now and next Tuesday when the budget gets adopted by the Board of Education. Just to recap where we've been, so January, the governor's initial proposal for foundation aid was to remove the hold harmless provision and change the CPI index, which both would have significant impacts on the district's state aid. If those were to pass, we're looking at a $5.7 million foundation aid, which is down year over year. Total estimated state aid of $9.04 million. In March, the state assembly and the state senate passed their by-house proposals, which restored hold harmless and kept the CPI index calculation flat, and also include a 3% kicker for districts that were not seeing any increase on their prior year base. If that was to be passed, we would be looking at a $6 million foundation aid amount for 24-25, $9.29 million overall in state aid, because you got to factor in the expense-driven categories as well. No proposed changes from any of the House Assembly members or the governor at this point, so we're very optimistic that that's going to stay and when the budget gets passed eventually. As of today, the negotiations are ongoing. The governor has made some comments recently that hold harmless provision will be removed from her proposal. However, she's still pushing for changes to the CPI index calculation. So I put this slide together just to show what the impact is if any of these 3 proposals get passed, and you're looking at a range of about $300,000 in state aid between the low end and the high end. So unfortunately, at this point, we don't have exact certainty of where state aid is. So when we budget for this for 24-25, if we don't have the certainty, we're likely to put in a conservative revenue number, just because we can't count on the fact that the more optimistic state aid number is going to come forth to us as a district. Overall, the proposed 24-25 budget, we're looking at a $45.288 million budget, which is a $1.3 million increase and 2.98 overall year-to-year increase budget to budget. This includes funding to maintain all of our existing levels of instructional programs, extracurricular activities, professional development, and includes funding for various enhancements, including some of these that I've listed on the slide. This is not all inclusive rather. There are other enhancements too, but these are the more significant ones, more mental health supports, increasing the available number of PPK seats for our pre-K students, additional sports teams for 24-25, additional instructional programs, enhancements to our buildings, enhancements to our security posture, investments in flexible furniture to continue the creation of 21st century instructional spaces in all of our buildings, and significant investments to the district's network connectivity and PC computing and telecommunication systems. So overall, a pretty significant enhancement to our existing posture as a district, and a 2.98% increase budget to budget is what we're proposing as of today, which is exactly the same number that I presented in our last presentation. So no change in terms of what we think from an expense perspective. So I'm going to just turn it over to Mr. Murray to talk about the instruction.
Thank you. So for the last few years, we've been talking a lot about the new programs that we brought into the district. And if you think of it as a NASCAR race, we've been accelerating. But now we're at speed. And it's time for us to just really make sure that we're steering in the right direction moving forward, and it's part of our just commitment to continuous improvement. So I always like to talk about how our curriculum and instruction decisions align with our district mission. And specifically, we're talking about making sure that we're engaging our students, that we have them in innovative programs, that we're challenging them academically, that they become self-directed learners, and ultimately, we have to not forget about the creativity that is necessary, because as we move into the world and as AI can do more and more rote things, creativity is going to be the most important thing that we can send our students out into the world with. And this value and priority that's been driving us since Mr. DiTomaso has been superintendent here is putting kids at the center of our decisions, knowing that if we commit to the 21st century essential skills, we commit to continuous learning and continuous improvement, that we give feedback when necessary, that those results are going to follow. And as Mr. DiTomaso alluded to earlier, some of those results are coming back sooner than we expected, which we're very happy about. Here is just a smattering of the many new programs that we've brought on over the last couple of years. We brought on Heggerty Phonemic Awareness. We brought in the Read 180 program for students who are struggling to read. We brought in foundations to help students with phonics, spelling, writing. The GEODS readers help our students develop their reading skills at a nice early age. The Orton Gillingham program is another way that we're helping our students who struggle to learn to read, including students with dyslexia. We have added a lot more independent reading options in middle and high school and developed those libraries. And we've offered the Seal of Civic Readiness, the Seal of Illiteracy, to more and more students. We're looking at likely dozens of students earning both of those distinctions this year if things keep going the way that they've been going. We've got iReady, we've got the next generation science standards in our elementary schools, and they're trickling up into the high school courses as well. And then our PBL works, which we're really proud of, because that's a different way that our students are learning, our project-based learning, which we've talked about at other board meetings. It just really engages the students, and that's where we can get into the creativity and help the students do things that no computer will ever be able to do. The last picture up in the top right corner, that's called Scarborough's Rope, and I'm going to get to that at the very end of my presentation. So first of all, iReady, that was a very big investment that we made going into this school year. It is a diagnostic assessment that we use as our universal screener and progress monitoring tool for all of our students in grades K through 8 to make sure that we're benchmarking and that they're progressing. But it also has a personalized learning pathway that allows those assessment results to go directly into a learning path for students, so that students who need to close learning gaps can close them, and students who need to be enriched can enrich them. And at our last board meeting, I presented on some of the results that we've seen in just 2 administrations, and they have been absolutely outstanding. And in many cases, doubling the number of students at or above grade level, cutting by 1/3 or half the number of students who are struggling. So it's really been working out very well so far, and our budget for next year will continue that program and continue to provide professional development for teachers so that they can make even more strong use of that program for our students. Project-based learning, we're going to continue the second year of a 3-year rollout plan for project-based learning. So it's not an additional cost, but it is a maintained cost from last year. Where a staff developer from PBL Works out in California is going to be coming in and helping the next cadre of teachers, the next 36 teachers, learn how to implement project-based learning units in their classrooms. This year we had our 5th grade and 6th grade classroom teachers, as well as our humanities teachers in grades 7, 8, and 9. We haven't determined exactly which teachers will be getting that program next year, but we'll be going further down in the grades up to the lower elementary and expanding up to other departments in the high school. So that's the plan as it is now. The students love learning this way. And you can see, these are 2 of my favorite pictures of the work that we've done this year, because it shows the peer-to-peer learning. You can see in the bottom right that we have high school students teaching elementary students things that they're expert in, and the elementary students are taking that back to do more learning. And then we have our 5th grade students teaching our kindergarten students. So we've got a real peer-to-peer-to-peer, multi-generational, so to speak, set of learning experience for the students that they'll take away with them forever. Not to be outdone, our high school continues to expand its offering of elective coursework while minimizing the amount of staff that requires. And a lot of that comes from students saying, I want this. And if there's a course that's not as popular and there's a new course they want, we do some swapping and trading. So just in the last 3 years, we've added college level creative writing with Syracuse. We've added a legal studies course that's a college level course through Farmingdale. We've added statistics and photography also through Farmingdale at the college level. We have other electives that are not college level, but are upper level electives for upperclassmen, including fashion design and production, financial algebra, military history through film, and digital fabrication out of our tech ed program. All things students have been asking for, and we're providing it for them. Finally, we're very, very proud of the AP Capstone Diploma program that we have now. This was another multi-year rollout of a program. We started with AP Seminar, which teaches basic research skills for our students at the college level, of course. And then this year we've been able to add AP Research, where students take those skills they learned in Seminar and dive into one topic of their choice and really dive in. It's almost like science fair, but it can be humanities, it can be science. The students can pick what they want. And if students finish that 2-course sequence and manage to get 4 or more AP exams where they scored 3 or higher, a lot of our students are already doing that, they graduate with an AP Capstone Diploma, which is just a wonderful accolade for them to go to college with. One of the new things for next year, which is not really going to be a cost, it's really going to more be a training and helping teachers know what resources to go to that are already out there. We'll build this into our superintendent's days and our faculty meetings. Is the science of reading. You may have heard that the state started what they're calling the New York State Literacy Initiative. It was announced in the winter of this year. It's part of the state education department's improvement plan, and it requires all schools to use the science of reading when they are instructing students K through 12. The science of reading is not a program. It's literally the last 50 years of academic research on how students actually learn to read. And so we're going to do more work with that. We do know that what it means to be literate in 2024 is very different from what it meant to be literate in 2020 or 1990 or further back. There's a lot more types of literacy that our students need, including technological literacy, but it really starts with the basics. And the science of reading is making sure our students read the early elementary grades with the basic skills, so that when they get into the middle and high school, they can read advanced texts, they can do advanced analyses, and they're ready to go into a world because they are now literate and thinkers. I'm going to go back to that Scarborough's rope. You can see it in the left-hand corner. If we were to put the science of reading into a single picture, it's that rope where there are a lot of different components that it takes to become a fluent and highly effective reader. Some of those have to do with the language, and some of those have to do with word recognition skills. Each of those strands has to get tied together, and when those strands all get tied together, you've got that rope that will bring our kids into the future. So that's really going to be a big focus for our teachers next year, at real minimal cost to the district, because it just comes with professional development through my office, through our principals, through our chairperson. So we're excited about that. And all of this goes to ensuring that we're developing the essential skills. We're a quarter of the way through the 21st century, so I don't want to call them 21st century skills anymore. These are essential skills to be successful in life. Sometimes they're called soft skills, but really it's collaboration, it's creativity, it's communication, it's problem solving, it's decision making, it's all of the things that allow you to be flexible as the economy you graduate into changes. And we know the only thing we can say for certain is our kindergartners today will be graduating in 13 years into an economy that none of us recognize. So we can't train them for jobs. We have to train them to be thinkers and learners so that they're ready to go on their own. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Ben.
Before Mr. Hill starts,
Sure.
I want to add to Mr. Murray's presentation is that if you heard the students speak at Superintendent's Council, the advisory presentation at our last meeting, many of the things they were mentioning, like iReady, like more projects, like more group work, that is what we use for the student-centered approach. And that's really the key. And when that ties in with, I call them essential skills for kids to communicate, problem solve. Then when they turn the door for graduation, whether they're going to college, military, 2-year school, right into the workforce, they're able to adapt and they're able to get ready for the work. And that's what we're trying to do. As Mr. Murray said, 13 years, what is the world going to look like? I don't know. Hard to predict, so we're trying to get ahead of it. I feel like we're doing a very good job of bringing programs to keep our kids ahead of the curve.
Thank you, Superintendent. So I'll be speaking about three significant additions to our PBS program. So the first is something that we've actually introduced this year. Since I joined the district in 2019, what we've seen is a trend where our behavior needs have steadily increased year over year. When I first began, we contracted out with an agency for a BCBA, a board certified behavior analyst, for 1.5 days. Everything else that person did for us was an a la carte model, so we needed them to conduct a functional behavior assessment in order to write the behavior intervention plan. We had to give those on top of the cost of the 1.5 days. Otherwise, we would be sacrificing that time, which is direct student contact time, which we really never were able to do. As the behavior needs increased, if we were to stay with the agency model, what would happen is it would become very quickly fiscally irresponsible. And so we started looking at alternative pathways. And so there is no New York State license for a board certified behavior analyst for schools. There is a separate licensing process that they go through, but it's not a school certification. So it's not something that you can or something. And so typically what happens with board certified behavior analysts is they're either a school psychologist or they're a teacher. And so we have to weigh our needs. Is it better for us to look at hiring a teacher who has the certification or school psychologist? And ultimately, what we found is that in high school, our students with IEPs, every 3 years, they have to be reevaluated to determine continued eligibility. Sometimes those 3 years can all happen at the same time, and so that's a lot for one psychologist to manage. And so we felt that for the long-term success of the district, the better choice was to hire a school psychologist / BCBA. That being said, not an easy person to find. We went through a very rigorous search process. We were able to hire Ms. Kate Hogan. She joined the district in March, and she's been doing phenomenal work for us ever since. And so what this position is it's split between the high school and Center Avenue. At Center Avenue, this person is solely the BCBA. They conduct functional behavior assessments when necessary and write behavior intervention plans. And then at the high school, they also have the BCBA component, but they help with the psychologist piece. So it's sort of twofold at the high school, but for singular purpose at Center Avenue. The other thing that they're doing district-wide is we have a part-time speech teacher at Rain who is also a BCBA, who is also bilingual, and therefore someone with a unicorn. Working together, they are developing school-wide tiered behavior intervention support for all students. So this is not just students with IEPs or 504 plans, this is for all students and provides tiered levels of support, tiers 1, 2, and 3, similar to academic intervention supports. And so we're very excited about this, and it's already pretty beneficial to the district. The second big addition for PPS is the addition of the 612 kindergarten class. Another trend that we've noticed over the last few years is that there is a lack, for lack of a better term, of preschool special education providers. So students in preschool are not getting the services that they need sometimes, and what's happening is they're coming in with more substantial needs year over year. So typically in a year, we're able to grade most of our students in districts. Sometimes we would have to send 1 or 2 out. As we looked at this year, we did multiple site visits to these students, and we found that we had at least 4, potentially 6 students who would require this level of services, 6 students per class. So to send those students out, we would have to find individual placements for each of them at a substantial cost. That would also be the worst possible thing for those students because they're on the bus for a significant period of time, they're not home school, they're not able to build peer connections for so many reasons that are happening in the district, and we haven't had this significant need before at this level. But this year, we do have the justification for opening this class. And so opening the class means a couple things. It means we need space. It also means that we need a provider, a teacher, and we need 2 additional aides. The 6-1-2 ratio is 6 students to 1 teacher to 2 aides. We believe that just simply by reducing aides in other areas, fading them from students at 1-to-1s, we will be able to put 2 aides in the classroom, 2 very experienced aides. We also believe that we will be able to find a teacher who will be able to provide this level of service. Actually, we have a teacher in the district who is interested in the role, and so we can hire them for that teaching position and slot in that person. So this is really a remarkable thing for our district. I think it's an absolute win for our kids. Kids are on most significant needs in the district. It provides them with a level of service that I think will benefit them substantially with their career here. And like I said, it does provide significant cost savings to the district as well. And then the last initiative is a part-time speech and language teacher. So as I said, what we've noticed the trend over time is that our students' needs are increasing. I think we've been very responsible as a community on preschool education, our community on special education, and that we only provide services that students need in order to progress through the curriculum. With that being said, we have noticed that students are having increased needs, and I've noticed in meetings with my colleagues across the South Shore Consortium, they are seeing the same trends. So it's not moving too far away. And so our speech services have increased. This year we had a number of students over the summer through new decisions and students moving into the district, but we did have to hire someone. We ended up hiring someone from an agency because that was the most cost-effective thing that we do at the moment. Looking at projections for next year, we do feel it's better to bring our own provider, a part-time provider. That person will be dedicated to Center Ave. Now with speech, one other thing we've done to try to improve services overall is we switched to the consultation model. So as opposed to students receiving in full, let's just say the average one is 4 weeks. So in the consultation, in the old model, for 4 weeks, a student would just receive direct service as a pull-out service, sometimes with some push-in sessions that are provided in the classroom, but no direct, not necessarily direct collaboration with the teacher. The consultation model is 3 weeks of direct service, and then the speech teacher essentially co-teaching the class with the teacher to integrate the skills that are learned during the speech sessions into the classroom so that the skills become transferable. We have seen success over this year with that model because it's the best thing for our kids and empowers teachers, and like I said, it makes sure that the skills are transferring from the speech sessions to the classroom. So all of that being said, those are the 3 initiatives for special ed this year, and we'll turn it back to Mr. Bowman.
You know, before we move on, I'm sure I just want to comment on one thing on the special education, 6.2. Not only is the course safety, probably the most important part is the belonging to a community. When the students stay within our buildings. And I had just shared a quick story. I did a tour for a graduating class years ago, and we were going through the building and telling them how the times have changed. And one of the graduates said, "You mean we don't have to ship our students out anymore?" And he was one of those students, and he said it really hurt, not only psychologically, but it hurt my advancement of belonging to this community. So I give you so much praise with that, because I think that belonging to the community is not part of also saving money, but most importantly, thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
So the aides that we're going to visit, will they be with you about aides? What about?
Oh, no. So we have experienced special education aides
Okay.
who Just full disclosure, the teacher who is interested in teaching the class
Okay.
currently works at 2 aides and work as a unit, so they would like to transfer their unit to the program.
Okay, and I have one more question about the new position for the part-time. Okay, what if we needs the service that,
So presently, we have one full-time speech teacher and 0.5 behavior/speech teacher at Maine.
okay,
And so our projections show that between the two of them, they'll be able to manage the caseload. In the event that we need this person to travel, we do have people travel between them.
thank you. Another question.
Sure.
And you said that we're still looking for space to, we're going to be putting 6 to 1, 62, and then any ideas? Because I know space is always,
Actually touring the building tomorrow.
which building?
Great.
Ram Avenue. So is it, are we trying to keep it at Ram?
So the feeling now is to keep it at Maine because for several reasons. One, if the teacher teaching the class were absent for a day, we could move another teacher who has special education. This is not a class where you could have a traditional sub come in and teach the class, so we would move another experienced special education teacher into the class and sub for that person's class. The other thing is if the students were to be in a less restricted environment, so maybe a larger special class or what have you,
It
they
phase out.
would already be in the building, so they wouldn't have to.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. But just to back off on his presentation on our BCBA for 23-24, we're paying for that salary and the benefits associated with that employee through American Rescue Plan funds, which have to be exhausted by September 30, 2024. So that's why that's now being moved into the operating budget for next year.
Thank you.
So just to get back to the overall budget, so one of the requirements of New York State is to do a 3-part budget. So basically laying out the expenditures that are projected into 3 categories: administrative, program, and capital. And this slide here shows you year over year what we're projecting for expenses and which categories they go into. So just looking at this, 75% of our proposed expenditures for 24-25, 75.47 are in the program space, which is a slight increase from year 23-24. Slight increases in the administrative and the capital components of the budget, $48,000 for administration, program going up 1.184 million, and capital 77,000. I'll talk about each of those components. So the administrative component of the budget covers things like the Board of Education, our district and building administration salaries and benefits, our clerical support staff at the district level, technology, infrastructure, basic blocking and tackling of running the school district, our business office operations and our support services like insurance, auditing, legal expenditures, and our district clerk. The main driver between the cost increase over 23-24 to 24-25 is the employee fringe benefit cost increases associated with our administrative staff as well as our clerical support staff. So our health insurance increases, our retirement benefit, our ERS and our TRS employer contributions. That's the main driver behind the difference year over year in this category. In the program component category, this covers everything that is generally speaking student facing. So our instructional staff, our social worker staff, our psychology staff, our nurses, our instructional materials, our transportation services for our students, our extracurricular programs, our co-curricular programs, and our athletic programs. In this space, the main drivers behind our cost increase of 1.18 million is the additional mental health support and instructional staff that we're adding for this year. Again, health insurance is a major cost driver and other benefits associated with those employees. And then the transportation costs associated with the additional routes that we had to put on for this past year that I talked about in previous presentations. And then the third component of the 3-part budget is the capital component. And this component covers things like security, our custodial and maintenance staff, and the operations of our facilities, debt service, and our capital projects. And again, the main cost driver here is fringe benefits associated with our custodial and our maintenance staff and our security. Security is pretty flat, debt service is pretty flat, and our capital projects cost expenditure for the operating budget is actually going down this year. So how do we fund the 24-25 proposed school budget? So these are the various revenue sources that are used by school districts to fund their budgets. In East Rockaway, 75% of the budget is funded through property taxes, the tax levy. State aid, between foundation aid and expense-driven aid, covers about 20% of our budget. Foundation aid is a formula-driven aid category, so the inputs into that are wealth, enrollment, people needs. So if you have a high percentage of special education students or English language learners, that would drive a higher foundation aid number comparatively to another district of similar size and similar enrollment. And then the smallest component is generally the local sources. So we generate some revenue organically through the district, things like interest on our cash holdings, any non-resident tuition. So if we bring students in from other districts to our district to take advantage of some of the programs that we have in place, we receive revenue for that. Any facilities usages. So if we have teams practicing on our field that are part of a community-based organization, generally they pay rent for those services, and then any other miscellaneous revenues like insurance recoverables, et cetera. And then the other piece is other financial resources. So the district over time has accumulated a fund balance. So fund balance is created when you have a revenue that's higher than your expenditures. You carry that forward year over year. You use that to support the next year's budget, put into restricted reserves for a rainy day. In a situation where you have a pandemic and then inflation spikes, that's what those savings are used for. So I'll talk about a little bit about that and how we're going to use that to support the 24-25 budget to get us through the tail end of the inflationary pressure that we've been feeling. So from a revenue perspective, this is what we're projecting as of now for 24-25. This state aid number, $9.049714 million, this is at the low end of that first slide I showed you, which is the governor's proposal. We're optimistic that number is actually going to be much higher, but from a budgeting perspective, we're trying to be conservative on the revenue side to ensure that we have enough money available from other sources to cover the operating budget from an expense perspective. Our pilots are slightly up this year by $22,000. Our interest revenue we're expecting to be significantly higher year over year. The district has put an initiative forward this year to invest some of our cash holdings into money market accounts, as well as some of the allowable under general municipal law investments we're allowed to put into that are collateralized to basically take the existing holdings we have and get more bang for our buck. Our local tuition is expected to increase this year by $67,000, and that's related to we have an additional handful of students that are going to be projecting are going to be coming into the district to take advantage of some of our services. And then our local revenue miscellaneous is actually going to be down slightly year over year. For 24-25, we're proposing to allocate $1 million of our appropriated fund balance. So appropriated fund balance, like I said, would be fund balance that we've accumulated over the course of the school year that we want to apply to the next year's budget to offset the costs of the taxpayers, and then fund the rest of the budget with some of our restricted reserves. So we're allocating about $500,000 of retirement contributions to the budget for this year. The hope is that the state aid number that we get back will actually be significantly higher than that, and it seems like that's going to be the case. But not knowing at this point, we're going to put for now we're proposing to put $503,000 of our restricted reserves towards the budget. What will happen is if the state aid number comes in higher than we're expecting, that money goes towards the budget for this year. At the end of the year, we'll get more state aid in than we're expecting. It creates fund balance. It goes back to the restricted reserve. So overall, the rest of the budget would be funded through the tax levy. So as Mr. DiTomaso said, a 1.98% increase year over year, which translates to about $33.4 million or $648,000 increase, and a budget-to-budget increase of $1.3 million for 24-25. These are the reserves that we have currently in district. I excluded the capital reserve purposely on here because capital reserves cannot be used to support the operating budget. That's used for capital fund projects, so investments to our buildings to improve the overall quality of the facilities. So we have 4 restricted reserves that are in place right now that can be used to support the operating budget for 24-25. The unemployment insurance reserve has about $78,000 in it, and that's supposed to be used for unemployment insurance specific expenditures. We have an employee benefit accrued liability reserve with about $500,000 in it. That reserve has to be used for post-retirement benefits, so things like vacation buyouts, sick buyouts that are negotiated with bargaining units. That reserve is specifically used for that. And then we have our retirement system reserves. The TRS reserve is a relatively new one. It was allowable a couple years ago, and most districts put it in place. We have $1.4 million in that reserve, and then our ERS reserve has about $5.8 million in it. The ERS reserve is for our civil service employees. The TRS reserve is for our certified staff members. So the TRS reserve has it's less than 1 year of TRS expenditures in it right now, and our ERS reserve has about 9 years based upon the current year projected ERS costs of funding in it. So that's why I'm recommending that we take the money for the 24-25 budget from that reserve to fund the budget. And then at the end of the year, like I said, if state aid comes in higher than we're projecting, and we're all very optimistic, then we can decide at the end of next year whether we want to reallocate that into a different restricted reserve or apply to the next year's operating budget.
Mike, has the TRS one been around longer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So TRS, I believe, was 4 or 5 years ago. It was something that business officials and ASBO was advocating for forever, and they finally created a sub fund under the ERS fund to allow for paying for TRS expenditure. Before that, you couldn't pay for any TRS retirement pension fund costs. You can only pay for the civil service employees, which doesn't make any sense.
The TRS has a limit you can put in it.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
And the
2%
ERS
of the
does
previous
not.
3 years average. ERS does not.
ERS can go forever.
All right. And so, again, looking ahead to the next year's budget, I'm proposing a 1.98% increase in the tax levy, which would be the third straight year the district is below the allowable tax levy, despite significant inflationary pressure, as you can see here, with that big spike between 2022 and 2023. So we're very proud of what we've been able to accomplish in the budget for this year and the amount of programs that we're going to be able to continue to support and the enhancements that we've included in the budget. Just to recap, this is what this translates to, and this is based upon, just a full disclosure, this is based upon assessed values that we receive as of September 2023. I just got updated assessed values as of April 2024 this week, so I think at the public hearing that we have scheduled for May, if there's a significant change in what's presented on the slide, we'll present that at the public hearing so the public has the latest information in terms of the impact on the average taxpayer's contribution towards the property taxes for 24-25, because this is based upon a little bit stale data at this point. So as Mr. DiTomaso said, Suffolk County, 2.86% average levy increase based upon information that was filed with the OSC on March 1st. Nassau County, 2.48% levy increase proposed, and Long Island overall, 2.669. We're going at a proposed number of 1.98, significantly lower than our tax levy cap, as well as comparatively the other districts in the region. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the energy performance contract again. So when you go look at the ballot in May, you'll see on it voter proposition number 4, which is an authorization we're seeking from the voters to enter into an energy performance contract not to exceed $4.5 million. Where that number comes from is we put out an RFP. We had a number of vendors come in and look at our district facilities and come up with a plan in terms of a preliminary plan in terms of what investments they can make in terms of energy efficiency and conservation measures to reduce the overall cost of energy to the district. The number that came back was approximately $4.5 million. What needs to happen at this point is they need to do a detailed audit review. After they complete the detailed audit review, the final EPC cannot, if the voter authorizes this, cannot go higher than $4.5 million, which we think is a reasonable number. The reason why we're putting this on the ballot, as Mr. DiTomaso said, is if the voters weigh in and they approve this, we get a 10% increase in building aid back to the district. An energy performance contract does not require voter authorization, but if voters don't weigh in on it, you get 10% less. So it behooves the district from a financial perspective to actually seek voter authorization. And when we seek voter authorization under the energy performance contract regulation, if you don't seek it, you have to go out with a lease financing arrangement. If you do seek authorization, you can look at other financing arrangements, which bring a much more preferential interest rate in terms of the financing back to the district. Talking to the financial advisors, it's about 100 basis points or 1% decrease in interest rate that we're looking at if the voter authorizes this, which again saves additional money for the district. When you factor that plus a 10% in building aid, which could be up to $450,000, from my perspective, it's a no-brainer, but we want to be fully transparent with the community, and we would ask that people vote yes in favor of this. We're going to move forward likely with an energy performance contract irrespective of the outcome of this vote. But if you do vote yes, you get that 10% building aid back to the district, and you give the district the ability to go out with more favorable financing terms for the overall cost of the project. And that's it for work session number 3. So the next thing we have on the calendar is the budget adoption, which will be at the board meeting next Tuesday on April 16th. The formal budget hearing will be on May 14th, and then the school budget is May 21st. That's when the vote will be.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Yes.
A couple of things. One is that it's just amazing that, if I'm reading this correctly, right, that the residential tax base dropped 168.57 annually, or 14.05 a month. That would be the outcome.
Correct. It's based upon September assessed values, which I will recalibrate ahead of the next meeting.
Yes. And based on, we have no control.
And the last year of the phase-in,
Correct.
so
It's a great
it's
point.
gonna be a roller coaster.
Absolutely.
Some people's are gonna go up 1,000, some
Someone
will
will
drop.
Yeah, exactly right. And then the last part of this is that, we're voting on the energy performance contract. We'll get an opportunity to see exactly what the contract is going to be entitled to, what they're offering us.
Prior to entering into any energy performance contract, the ESCO, the energy service company, will come in and do a full presentation of what's included in the scope of the project. The board at that point has the opportunity to go thumbs up or thumbs down. They're going to be constrained in terms of what they can do to $4.5 million at this point because of this resolution.
That will happen before the vote happens, right?
Depends on when that, so they have 60 days to complete their detailed energy review.
Okay. And at that point in time, if it happened after the vote, right, we can pay anyway.
Correct. Correct, there's no commitment.
Thank
So
you.
on that question, when you say we can disagree with what happens or what doesn't happen, we can actually allocate money to different areas that they're actually telling us?
We can say, if they propose solar panels as an example, we want to put solar panels all across the district, we could say, we don't want to do solar panels. We want to invest the capital into things like upgrades of our lighting, our LEDs, insulation. Everything has to be tied directly to energy cost savings, so it's not like they can just redo our athletic fields again. That wouldn't have energy cost savings associated with it, but yeah, as long as it's tied to energy cost savings, it can be included in the scope of the project as long as it's tax neutral to the taxpayer.
Thank you. When the proposition is on the ballot, how is it worded? Will it be understandable for lay people that we are?
It's which one? The energy performance contract? It's basically going to say, there's going to be a first paragraph, it's going to be a not to exceed, so it's going to say, well, the district is seeking voter authorization to enter into an energy performance contract for an amount that will not exceed the cost of $4.5 million.
Okay.
Then it'll have another sentence in there about the 10% building aid. Then it'll have another sentence in there about the financing. And then there'll be another sentence in there that says, the district still has the opportunity to enter into an energy performance contract, even if this is voted no. So it'll basically be 4 sections to it.
Okay, so it will be clearly on the ballot.
So,
But people have to understand what that is, because they're gonna see that amount of money, and they're gonna say there's no way. They have to understand that it's an
It's no
actual
cost.
savings.
It's a savings.
It's a savings, right? It's a no cost, and it will save the district extreme amount of money.
In reality, we would go for an energy performance contract. Any price, it will save us
But why-
money.
but why not?
But why not get 10%?
Right, which doesn't sound like wrong, but when you actually do the figure, it is a decent number.
$150,000.
Okay.
can I ask a question or no? So, did they do the energy performance contract and then they're proposing? And this
So they
is-
do a preliminary review of the district, they walk the buildings,
And
and then
they're doing this now?
they
Or
already
they
did that.
haven't
That's been
been
done.
hired yet?
That's been done yet. So they compete against, all the various ESCOs competed against each other and put together proposals. Based upon the best one that was submitted, we selected one vendor and we said, okay, go, you do your detailed energy audit review now, which it's a deeper dive. They basically rip the district, they dive into
They
everything.
did for a living a little bit.
Yeah. They dive into everything to refine their numbers because they have to, by law, make sure that it's cost neutral to the taxpayer. They're not allowed to enter into an energy performance contract with the district if it's not.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, the way we're doing these presentations currently, it's a really nice way for the community to see how the administrators work hand in hand. If it's determining the total budget. It's not only comes on, the assistant superintendent or, finance, thank you. But everybody, and that's really a hands-on approach that you've developed, and I want to thank you.
Really was.
Thank you.
Very easy to understand.
Very
Really, the way you did it.
So much thank you. So much thank you.
I like it better when it's a collaborative group, everyone works together.
Easy to
It
understand.
really is very nice. Yeah,
And
thank
see
you.
who drives the horse, man. You know what I mean? Like, who's driving? Everybody's driving.
So,
And that's what goes into a budget. That's the way it should be well represented. Thank you. So, do we have anything else that we want to add to the next week? So, at this point, I would like the board to adjourn and a motion to be made to go into executive session to discuss the contract negotiations.
Second.
Ms. McNally. Okay, thank you very much for coming tonight. And we'll see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At one point, there was